Isaiah 34:17 reads, "And he hath cast the lot for them, and his hand hath divided it unto them by line. They shall possess it forever, from generation to generation shall they dwell therein." KJV. Let me craft a story around this verse, exploring its themes of destiny, division, and inheritance within a narrative setting. Title: The Promise of the Land. In a land ravaged by war and broken by the weight of generations' worth of conflict, there was a village nestled between craggy mountains and a sprawling desert. Its people had once been a mighty nation, proud and rich in culture, but now they were scattered, their lands divided, their hearts hardened by loss. Among the survivors was a young woman named Elira. She had heard stories from her grandmother, who often spoke of a time long ago when their ancestors lived under the protection of a promise from God, long believed to be forgotten. The people of her village once held the land with pride, a vast stretch of fertile soil that could feed generations. But now, it was in the hands of strangers and warlords, and hope was a foreign concept. Elira had grown up with only fragments of the old stories. Her family, like many others, had lost their place when the invaders swept across the land. Now, there was only barren earth, and in the distance, the flickering lights of a fortified city held by those who had no regard for the ancient ways. Yet there were whispers in the wind, tales of a prophecy that one day, the land would be returned to those who had lost it, by the hand of a chosen one. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Elira stood at the edge of a high cliff that overlooked the village. Her grandmother had passed away the week before, leaving her the last of the family's heirlooms, a worn scroll, its ink faded by time. Elira had never understood its significance until now, when she could almost hear her grandmother's voice, urging her to read it again. She unfurled the scroll, the ancient words, still legible, though faint. The prophecy she had once heard as a child now seemed to call out to her, "And he hath cast the lot for them, and his hand hath divided it unto them by line. They shall possess it forever, from generation to generation shall they dwell therein." The meaning struck her with the force of a thunderbolt. This was it. The promise that her people would not be forgotten. The land would return to them. But there was a part she had never understood before. She was the one destined to lead them back. The weight of this realization settled upon her shoulders. She was no longer just a girl in the shadows of history. She was the bearer of a legacy, a line of people who had been waiting for someone to fulfill this promise. The land would be hers to reclaim, and with it, the future of her people. With a trembling heart, Elira began to speak to those who still clung to the broken remnants of the village. She shared the prophecy, though she knew the burden it placed upon her would be difficult to bear. Many laughed, dismissing her as a dreamer. Others were afraid, hesitant to believe that such a thing could be true after all the years of suffering. But Elira was resolute. "I have seen it in the ancient words," she said, her voice unwavering. "The land is promised to us, not as conquerors, but as heirs, chosen by the hand of God. It will not be easy. There will be trials, but we must trust in the promise that the land, our land, will be returned to us, generation after generation." As the days passed, more and more came to listen. Some were skeptical, but others were filled with hope, a glimmer that had long been absent from their eyes. With time, Elira gathered those who still remembered the old ways. Together they began the journey through the desert, seeking the land that had once belonged to them. Their journey was long, and many perished along the way, but each step felt like a step closer to fulfilling the ancient promise.